everybody. Welcome to the Takeoff podcast. I am John Clark, presented by Live Casino Hotel Philadelphia. I'm in Phoenix, Arizona, Super Bowl week for your Eagles. And our special guest, he's somewhere nice as well. He'll be getting here. Malcolm Jenkins, how you doing?
I'm doing great. The Eagles are in the Super Bowl, getting ready out here in LA. Weather's beautiful. How about you?
I mean, it's fantastic. We're here at the Eagles Resort where they're staying. It's on lockdown. You've probably seen a lot of the interviews. The Eagles are in the Super Bowl. You guys won 5 years ago. What do you think of what you're seeing and hearing out of this Eagles team?
Yeah, I mean, when we went to the Super Bowl, one of the things that I always said was like, people try to tell you, act like you've been there before. But if you've never been there before, then don't try to be something that you're not, right? And you want to see a team show up to the biggest stage in the world with all of the lights and cameras and be themselves. And I think that's what we've seen so far in these interviews, that they've kept things the status quo. Jalen Hurts looks like the same locked in, focused guy, and that trickles down to the rest of the team. So I think that's what you really want to see, is like a team get into this arena, this space, and not lose their personality, not lose their focus or their swagger. So, it looks like they're handling at least the some of the distractions and all of the fanfare pretty well.
Yeah, I was talking to Brandon Graham and a couple of the guys, and BG says everything is kind of slowed down for him this trip. But the first trip 5 years ago, everything is just fast-paced, in your face. You got to be here, you got to be there. What was it like for you, Super Bowl week and then leading up to the game?
Yeah, I think it's similar to what Brandon's talking about. The first time, I barely left my hotel room. My nerves were high, things were happening fast. You were trying to ignore so many things. The second time, you realize that it's rare to actually get to these type of stages. So I actually took the time to really look at what was happening around me, take in the environment, soak in the views and all of these things, understanding that, these opportunities don't come, that often. And you want to be present. You want to be able to take in the moment and be present where your feet are.
How do you kind of have that mentality during a Super Bowl to do the things that you're good at and do the things that got you there, not try to do too much, not try to make the big play of the Super Bowl, and keep your nerves and your emotions kind of calm if you can?
Yeah, I mean, hopefully I was practicing that all year, right? That wasn't something that you just tried to turn on in the Super Bowl. You've been in the NFC Championship, you've been in playoff games where you've had to execute and keep the main thing. And this game doesn't require you to do anything new. You don't have to be a new player or make some extravagant plays. It usually comes down to which team executes the smallest, simplest things better for longer. And I think that's going to be the case when it comes to this game.
We love having you on this podcast because you do such a great job of analyzing football. And I remember you used to keep notes all the time and you studied your opponents. You put in a lot of work. So let me ask you, Eagles, Chiefs, who do you think has the better team?
Well, I think when you say who has the better team, just top to bottom, even coming in from a health standpoint, I think the Eagles have more talent. I think they have a healthier team. But what the Eagles have in talent, the Chiefs have in experience. And I think we have a quarterback like Patrick Mahomes and the weapons that they have on offense, Andy Reid. They're going to be prepared. The moment's not going to be too big. But I do think that the Eagles' talent is something to deal with, especially up front on either side. So the offensive line and defensive line, I think, is a significant advantage. And if those two units show up versus a banged up, quarterback and a defense that's not known for stopping the run, I think that's going to be the key for the Eagles. If they can't get an advantage up front, then I think all of a sudden that talent that they have gets equalized. With that experience, because Andy Reid and them, they're going to make some plays. They're going to have some things drawn up. But I do think the Eagles, need to keep their poise and obviously stick to the basic things, because when you match up the rosters, I think the Eagles do have a more talented roster.
You've played against Patrick Mahomes, and this year he's the second hardest quarterback to sack. He can get away from pressure. Even with the high ankle sprain, he's only been sacked 3 times in the 2 playoff games. That defensive line for the Eagles is pretty epic, but is Patrick still able to make that off-schedule play, get out of the way of pressure, and dump it off to running backs so effectively?
Well, I think when you look at somebody not getting sacked, is sometimes that has to do with their ability to move in the pocket, but really that's a cerebral stat. That means that they know what the defense is giving them. They know how to get the ball out of their hands quick and keep themselves out of harm's way. And I think we see that in Patrick Mahomes. He knows how to get the ball out, get in space with his players, and then can still create those off-schedule plays. I think everybody wants to see how healthy he's going to be with a couple weeks now since that last game. Can he move? Can he get out of the pocket? If so, I think it makes the game so much harder, especially on the defense. So it's going to come down to that defensive line getting to him quickly and not allowing him to extend the play, making him get the ball out of his hands quick, and make them kind of earn their way all the way down the field.
5 years after you brought a Super Bowl to Philadelphia, you are now an author. We're going to get to that in 1 second. I just have a couple more football questions. You see with Tyreek Hill gone, maybe some of that downfield passing, they're not doing that as much. And you see they're effectively getting it into the hands of like Jerick McKinnon, and, he'll dump it off. How effective is that for the Chiefs this year? And when you're defending, especially the defensive backfield, the defensive backs, linebackers, I mean, how important is the tackling? You got to cover back there, but if you dump it off, they can still get 10, 15 yards on those.
Yeah, I think that is, YAC and yards after catch. All those things are huge for the Chiefs. If you can't tackle in space, then it's tough. That's what Kelsey, he's a great route runner, great tight end, probably the best in the game at this point in time. But when you watch him play, it's not that he has the best routes or releases. It's the yards after catch, his ability to work away from the defender. The ball gets to him and he's running. You see that with all of those guys. So it's going to be key to one, if they do make plays, to eliminate the yards after the contact, yards after catch. But they have dynamic runners, dynamic people with the ball in their hands. And that's really, one of the keys, especially for those linebackers and secondary of the Eagles. They can cover. I think they'll be able to match up, but can they tackle in space and eliminate, some of those extra leaky yardage?
So I've asked a couple guys this. Brandon Graham says he believes this team has way more talent than your Super Bowl team 5 years ago. Fletcher Cox actually says he thinks the 2017 team would win if they played this team. Now, this Super Bowl result is not known yet. You guys were champs. Can you weigh in on this? Which team you think is more talented?
I mean, honestly, I think, man, it's tough. I think this team might be more talented. When I look at offensively, we had Alshon and Zach. I think offensively is probably even, just because our quarterbacks were on fire that year. We had receivers and things like that. Defensively, I think this defense might be better at certain spots. I think the D-line is better, even though we had a killer D-line that year. Just what they've been able to do this season has been remarkable. They're definitely an upgrade at the corner position. We had two solid corners, but I think Bradbury and Slay are just having phenomenal years. So it's those are some key positions. So I think when you really try to match it up, I think talent-wise, I would probably lean more toward this unit. But I think the journeys were a little bit different. We were at a place where we had nothing to lose and were very, very comfortable being an underdog and staying focused. We had a championship pedigree with so many guys we signed from the offseason that had been former Super Bowl champions. So that leadership was just a bit different, and definitely a different team. But I'm excited. This team is one that is special. It's completely different journey than what we had. And so it's, as a fan now, I'm looking and really excited to see what this team can do if they can cap off this great season they've had and bring a championship back home to Philadelphia.
Malcolm, when you saw what happened after you guys won the Super Bowl, Carson Wentz is traded away, Doug Peterson's fired, for them to turn around, pivot, and have new head coach, new quarterback, second-round pick quarterback who was behind Carson, are you amazed at how they were able to reshape and reform this team into another Super Bowl contender?
Yeah, and I think you have to really, take your hats off to Howie Roseman and Jeff Lurie, because, they're the mainstays, right? They were able to continue a winning legacy on the team and keep a culture that can consistently be competitive. And that's hard to do. There's not many organizations in this league that are competitive year in and year out. And to turn that back around this quick, like you said, with the coaching change, with the quarterback change and all of those things, it's very impressive.
Hey, so I remember growing up, all the stories we used to hear about guys, Super Bowl week, they would go out Sunday night, Monday night, they would hit the town, go out hard sometimes. But it seems to me like Devontae Smith tells us he goes and locks himself in his room, no TV, no phone. He's in darkness. Jalen Hurts, he's not going out. Do you think times have changed?
No, no. That was me the first time I went to the Super Bowl as well, like sitting in my room, not going out. But we did go out that Monday before. I think it just comes down to, people's process. Can you be out and about and still stay focused on the game? If you're a guy who can do that, then I would encourage you to do that and not try to, do anything different now that your routine is. So if you're a guy, during the regular season, you don't go out on Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, don't show up to the Super Bowl and now start trying to do those things. And so I think it really comes down to to each his own type of approach.
All right, ahead of the big game on Sunday, let's take a look at a points bet, prop bet right here. All right, any player in the Super Bowl to have 100 plus yards receiving. Wow. So yes, 375, no, plus 275. So I am going to say yes. I think one player will have 100 yards receiving. Now, of course, in the Eagles Super Bowl win the first time, Corey Clement was their leading receiver. So it'll be interesting to see who could possibly be the leading receiver for the Eagles. Maybe Devontae Smith will have a couple of big catches down the field. A.J. Brown, I know they want to get him involved. So two big possibilities there to go over 100 yards receiving. So get your swagger back. Points bet, sports book, points bet, your move. So this is pretty cool. You are now an author. Tell us the title of that book.
It's called What Winners Won't Tell You, Stories from a Legendary Defender. It's a memoir really about my life told through the lessons that I've learned through sports, being a father, business, all of those things. And really, I've experienced a lot. I've played a 13-year career, been through a lot of different things, experienced a lot, met a lot of people, and really understanding that my story is an important one to contextualize and solidify, really, and spread. So a lot of people know, what they've seen on the surface, the things they've seen in the media, but there are a lot of things happening kind of under the surface and behind the scenes that add really important context to, my legacy and the whys behind all of the things you see me do.
And obviously you wanted to share your story with people. Who are you trying to touch or help or, add information to and help them in their journey in their lives?
Yeah, I think I have so much to offer, a lot of people, whether it be anybody who's looking for lessons in leadership. I've been a captain on almost every team I've been on, been very successful in leading teams to championships and things of that sort. Fatherhood, having to navigate being a single father, throughout with all of the demands that I have, an entrepreneur, philanthropist, and obviously, from athletes, from just high performance to even the business part of it. All of these spaces, overlap kind of into my life, right? And I think there are a bunch of people who can take something from it. It's a book that obviously, on the surface looks like, oh, it's a story about an athlete, but anybody who knows anything about me knows that I'm more than an athlete. And this book really showcases kind of all of those different avenues and verticals and how they play with one another and intertwine to make up, who you see before you.
Yeah, I got to tell you, I was always amazed by the amount of time you were able to invest in all the things you were doing. You would go to the Harrisburg State House, whatever. I mean, right after a game the next morning. And so I always respected that. When did you decide you wanted to write this book?
Honestly, I started about 2 years ago while I was still in the league. I didn't really exactly know what I was doing. It just started to kind of come out of me. I understood that my career was winding down. There were a lot of things that I had experienced that I wanted to crystallize. And I just started writing. And what I wanted to say really began to kind of come to fruition as I really reflected over everything that I had been through in my life. And so it's been a labor of love. It's been definitely something that's different for me, writing a book. It's been a tough but rewarding journey, and I'm excited to share, what I've been through with the world.
So what's this week like? You're going to be coming to Phoenix. I've seen you on the list for some big events. What's this like, seeing the Eagles back in the Super Bowl 5 years after you brought the first Super Bowl to Philadelphia? I mean, if they have another parade, it's not going to be as big as that first Super Bowl. That first Super Bowl will always be the biggest win in the history of Philly sports.
Yeah, I'm very secure in that space, right? Like I'm not getting replaced at all, so it's being able to bring the first one to the city was definitely unique and very special. But this entire year really for me has been unique and special because it's my first year out of the game as a fan. And being at all of the playoff games, and I'll be in the building this Sunday, really as a fan. It's one of those things where I don't even like to engage with a lot of people during the games because I'm locked in. I'm rooting and I'm watching the play call and I'm watching the players, the adjustments. And I'm really looking forward to some good football this year. I mean, the Eagles have played a phenomenal brand of football all season long, and now they get arguably the best team well, not arguably, but the best team obviously out in the AFC, and we'll figure out who ends up on top. But the ride has been phenomenal, and I'm looking forward to obviously finishing that off and capping it off on Sunday.
People in Philly loved the last time you were on. You told us that you do get up in front of your TV sometimes. When you're actually at these games like you were during the playoffs, are there things that you now see kind of stepping back a little bit or have a newfound respect for that you did as a player or all players do in the NFL? Like, is there something that stood out to you watching these games in person?
Well, I think, one of the things that I've noticed now because I'm sitting in the stands is how, the ebbs and flows of the game are really dictated by the crowd. And I never really heard the crowd noise while I was on the field. It was more of like you feel the vibrations, amplify and decrease. And sitting in the stands, I'm realizing how much of an effect that has, like really on the game, and how you can start to feel those rises in tension, and they affect even the play callers. So you can predict things like from an offensive coordinator or defensive coordinator based on how the stadium feels. Like if it's a pressure situation, it's third and long or a crucial kind of down, all of a sudden you see coaches adding blitzes, they'll come harder, or offensive coordinators taking shots down the field. Like you can feel those things that go with the ebb and flow of the crowd. That was something I never really noticed much as a player. But it's a lot of those nuances just from a different vantage point now as a fan that you see how it affects kind of the game on the field.
And like your Super Bowl, you expecting to see what, 60-40 Eagles fans over Chiefs fans? I mean, what was it like 5 years ago?
Oh yeah, it was a home game 5 years ago, so I expect nothing less from the Philly faithful. We travel well. I know we'll be in the building. Yeah, so hopefully we take it over, and it's just it's like another game in a link.
That's great. I actually saw Chris Long, Bo Allen, LeGarrette Blunt's in town. You got a lot of guys. Are you guys all getting together in person for this game?
Yeah, I know Sproles will be out there. A bunch of those guys. So I don't think we coordinated it yet, but I know there's some text going around. We got to link up for a drink or something. At least get a picture and post it for the Eagles faithful just to see what we're doing nowadays.
And you know what? You might have another party on a Sunday night.
There it is.
Well, thanks so much, Malcolm, for joining us. Is there anything else you're working on or involved with along with the book that you want to tell Philly about?
Yeah, a lot of the things, I was known as an Iron Man when I played there, in Philly, not missing games, and a lot of that came to because of my habits and taking care of my body, all the things I was doing, and that still continues now. So I'm excited about a partnership I've made with a company called Nestry, founded by a former player, but it's a company that deals with cognitive strength training and solutions using like neuroscience and AI machine learning to really create personalized workout regimens for mental health, brain wellness, and overall just human performance. And I really think they're going to be on the cutting edge of just raising the baseline of humanity when it comes to cognitive and mental health and cognitive strength. So that's been something that's been really fun for me, especially in light of all of the discussions around player safety and concussions and CTE. And then on top of that, I think, as an athlete, one of the things I've always been passionate about is just mental health, being able to deal with my own issues, seeing other athletes struggle, dealing with things, even with Brandon Brooks. And so I've started a podcast called Safe. It's myself, my brother, my best friend, where we just open up and create something that I really don't see much of, which is a safe space for men to talk about men things without judgment, without, feeling like they have to be perfect. And so we're launching that here soon. So all of these things that I'm doing, the book, the podcast, the role with Nestry all play into kind of a spinoff of what I've been doing for the last 13 years.
I don't know how you do it. You can't rest.
No. I get plenty. I'm getting sleep. I'm starting to force myself to get a little bit of sleep. But I got to stay busy. Being the most expansive version of myself is really what I call living, right? Like learning what the limitations and capabilities that I have are, and then turning those into intentional actions. And those intentional actions are your purpose. That's how you live your life and have impact on this world. So I don't really see it like, like I'm working too hard. I'm really just living my life through all of the talents that, I've been blessed with.
Yeah, you're always exploring, reaching out. We can't keep up with you, but congrats on the book. That's awesome. I look forward to reading it, and congrats on the other things you're involved with here. And hopefully it's going to help some people, and especially younger people getting involved 100%. In sports and the mental aspect of it. And we were just talking to Lane Johnson, and Chris Long actually was talking to him too, and he was saying how he's kind of able to enjoy it a lot more now in the mental space he's in. So that's really good to hear.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what we should. The game, we play a game for a living, right? And even though it's high pressure, we're the best in the world at what we do. It's a lot of business around it. We should still be able to enjoy the game. And I think that was a journey for me. And I'm glad more athletes are talking about it, experiencing that, and really finding a place where they can, be at peace.
Well, you got it. The security dogs are coming by. The Eagles team buses must be coming by soon.
There it is.
Tell you, feeling it again. Congrats on the book. Congrats on all you're doing. And 5 years ago, Super Bowl champs. So congrats on that as well.
Thank you.
Appreciate you, Malcolm. Thanks for the time.
All right. Go Birds.
All right, man. Thanks.